Oh, la 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 la. Okay.
Didn't bring a drink. Oh,
I did. Yeah, I've got
sort
one.
of a
No booze though.
glass that used to not be cloudy, but it's just empty anyway. Used to be able to see through that glass. Okay, welcome to the Tokyo Jazz Joints podcast. This is episode 103, or more conventionally 103, but it's also number 8, or Nummer 8 as they say in Germany, of our top 10 countdown. Our top of the Tokyo Jazz Joints, got it wrong already, Tokyo Jazz Joints top of the top, Tokyo Jazz Joints top of the pops, top 10 countdown. And we're at number 8. James, before we jump straight into the charts, how are you?
I'm just trying to get over that amazingly smooth intro there. Tokyo.
It's pretty good.
Tokyo Jazz Joints top 10 pop the pops. Yes, I can't say it either. Yeah, numeral acht though. Not too bad there. Pretty good with
I think
the
it's
German.
Nummer, but you're mixing your languages there.
Sorry, I've been brushing up on my Spanish. So I'm jumbling everything together.
So multilingual.
Yeah,
honestly.
It's a good thing with number
Americans
8.
are
Actually,
famed for.
actually, I was just asking the kids because I came across the exit. I don't know if you heard about this. Hachiban Deguchi, the Japanese film based on the video game Exit Number 8, about the man who
Oh no.
basically is trapped inside of a subway station and can't get out, which is something we've chronicled many
Oh,
times.
hang on. Someone's nicked that from us in Osaka.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's based on a video game, and they made a sort of psychological thriller out of it. It's called Hachiban Deguchi.
Well, we have lived that experience, because if you're ever in, is it Namba station in Osaka? Well, who knows? It's
Umeda.
About seven. Umeda. It's like 7 stations in one anyway. We know what that's like. I mean, we spent probably a couple of days there just trying to find the exit.
Oh, it's unbelievable. Well, when you get back on your next trip too, you got to stop by. You'll be stopping through Shinjuku at some point, but they've yet again more massive reconstructions, so the whole west side has become completely impossible to navigate, even for a veteran like me. But no, I'm doing good, and I'm ready to dive in. We're going to start to get a little deep today, so I'm very excited to continue the countdown.
Talking of Japanese films, before we start, you haven't seen Rental Family?
I have not.
I saw it a couple of months ago, and I have to say, and I don't care, haters be damned, I thought it was really good. I thought Brendan Foster was brilliant, and I think if you've lived in Japan or spent any time there, there's a lot of it that really resonates. And I think as a man yourself, with children of whose identity span 2 cultures, I think you might be fascinated, if a little emotional.
Oh, I'm happy to hear that, because I mean, I've heard of it, and without knowing much about it, my first assumption was just, oh God, here we go, more wacky, weird Japan done from overseas. Completely not interested. But I really, honestly, I haven't heard anything else about it. So if you give it the thumbs up, I'd gladly put that on the list. What I will not be putting on the list is, somebody texted me, oh, James, you have to go see Hamnet, the new movie about Shakespeare, which I had not heard of. Not realizing that the person who sent me this knows my tastes very well. When I read about it, I just burst out into laughter, because it's certainly not be on my to-watch list. It looks like, I mean, real Oscar bait, overacting. Like, ooh, gosh.
Of all the things that they say about you, the one thing that they could never say is that you're quick to judge. I think that's fair to say, right? I mean, you're a man who's slow to judge. You take in all the information. You make a very carefully informed decision, and none of it's based on hearsay or biases or anything like that. Is that a fair assessment?
Life is short, my friend. You got to divvy up your leisure time very carefully, and you're
saving a lot of time on the judgments, because I mean, they're so quick. Think of all that extra time you're getting back on a daily basis.
The groovy YouTube clips, and we'll be fine. But yes, this is not Siskel and Ebert. Let's dive into our countdown. I believe I go first today. Yes, we're alternating.
Yeah, you go first. Go on then. So we're at number 8. Just as a quick recap on the charts, as is tradition, and on top of the pops. At number 10, for me, we had Scarecrow, and at number 9, we had Naima. For you, at number 10, we had
Mingus in Hiroshima. Hiroshima's
Mingus in Hiroshima. And at number 9, we had Groovy, the one and only Groovy. Well, actually, it's not the one and only Groovy. There's about 100, but it was the one in Sapporo that, for me, was a bit of a surprise entry on the charts. So I'm looking forward to hearing your number 8. So without any further ado, take it away.
Okay. Well, I'm wondering if this will make an appearance on your list or not, too. We're going to go back. So we visited there almost exactly 3 years ago. And it is the extremely, extremely wonderful Dear Lord in Osaka City, at the very quirkily named Hanaden Station, which even I was doing the research of reading about Dear Lord, there was a blog where the guy even mentions like, oh, every time I come to the Kansai, I just have so much trouble with these. I can never read the sign name. This is a Japanese guy, because the kanji readings are sometimes very different in Japan, depending on what region you go to. And yeah, Hanaden was one of those ones that kind of made me turn my head too when we went there. But yes, Dear Lord, a place we went together only once. I believe it was our second spot of a very long day we did in Osaka on that trip, where we hit at least 6 or 7 places. And it was a Kisaten that I think was added to our list pretty late. It was one that we'd really heard of, even though it opened in 2011. And how would we describe the location of Dear Lord? I mean, it is in the center of Osaka, pretty much, maybe a couple stations from, downtown, but a very urban area. And it's in a building that, honestly, I don't even think is as wide as my house. And if you know Japanese houses, you know that they're not wide at all. I mean, a couple, maybe 4 meters, 12 feet, 15 feet max wide, narrow, and 4 stories tall. And Dear Lord is at the top, and there's no elevator. So you walk up these steps. And Philip, I'm sure you remember what happened, because we went there to get there right when Dear Lord opened at 1:00, and we get to the top and it's not open. And so we're just waiting.
Yeah, and I think actually we could have, like, it's one of those things, but I think had the mood been slightly different, or had been a different time of day, we might have said, nah, do you know what? Because it was ever so slightly like, kind of it felt slightly out of the way within the context of, nipping around Osaka. It felt like it was a bit far to go. And so, yeah, I think, and then of course, then we got there, and as you said, and you just get that sense straight away. There's like a preemptive darkness, right? As you climb the stairs, you're like, I feel like there's not enough lights on up here.
Yes.
And then when we arrive at the door, you're like, yep, that's it. And what I remember actually on the way up was the staggering a number of signs. So there was one in the street, there was one on the letterbox,
yes,
and as you went up,
yes.
and as you came up the stairs, there were different posters, some laminated, some not. There's about 9 different Dear Lord posters, but yeah, unfortunately, when we got there, there was no one to be found.
It was a solid 4 stories too. It wasn't one of those ones where it was like 5 steps on each. I mean, it was a good walk up, but we were both kind of like, okay, I'm not going back down and back up again, so we're just going to wait here. And then, yeah, I mean, the signs, I think, really do make sense because of this. This is one of those Jazzkeisa that's in an extremely unusual location, even for Japan. I mean, it is this narrow, gray, what looks like, I think there was a dance studio on the second floor, and maybe a yakiniku, like a grilled barbecue restaurant on the first floor, and maybe another one was an office. You know how all the buildings here are multi-purpose, multifunctional. So I think all the signs like made sense, because you could easily think, oh wait, no, there's not going to be a jazz place here, right? And you would just walk by it. But so we waited. I don't know. I don't have the notes how long we waited. I don't think it was that long, 10, 15 minutes max. And then a very surprised lady of indeterminate age, maybe a little bit older than us, comes up and sees us and is kind of a little bit startled. But we spoke to her in Japanese. Says, oh, yeah, we're here for the Jazzkeisa. Sorry to surprise you. And she did very apologetic, of course, for being a little bit late. And that was the absolutely wonderful Sakai-san, Miss Sakai, who let us in, and it was just, oh, I'm so sorry, it might take a few minutes to get settled. So that was perfect for us, because it gave us a chance to look into the space. And again, this, Dear Lord, you walk in, and it's like, how can this possibly be a Jazzkeisa? I mean, it is a square, what looks like a tiny, tiny office, but it's got all of these beautiful chairs that are quite big and comfy, facing the speakers on the back wall, and then a tiny little kitchen. And that's pretty much it. There's a couple posters here and there, but you go in, you sit down, you're just facing the speakers, and the music is just coming right at you. And immediately I just felt like, oh, this is just absolutely going to be insane, like completely wonderful. So she kind of like got the kitchen started up, and of course you had to order the 1 p.m. curry lunch. I think I got a little pizza or something. But we sat down. She
pizza
put on
toast.
Some music.
I have the photographic evidence. Pizza toast.
Always got to go with the pizza toast if they have it. And we just sat down, and I just remember thinking to myself, like, again, for the millionth time, this is an only in Japan place, but yet another one that is completely and utterly unique. And it wasn't until we were getting ready to leave that we actually talked to Sakai-san. She's a longtime veteran. Used to work in Jazz Keys in Kyoto when she was younger. She told us she'd just gotten back from visiting her daughter, who's in university in Tokyo, and she'd gone to like Masuko, our good friend, Moeko-san in Shimokutsusawa. And so she does her, Jazz Keys roundups as well, just like us when traveling. But she was absolutely wonderful. And I mean, dear Lord, to me, again, not the most aesthetically beautiful place, but just the purity of it. It's like, I don't care that this space has got white walls with sort of like gray furniture and like a rather drab view and looks like it should be a small real estate office. I'm going to turn this into a Jazz Kisa because this is the only place I could rent, and I'm going to make it so that every seat is facing the music. And I remember a kind of an older guy coming in who sat down pretty close to us and then kind of wasn't comfortable. He was kind of like, a little antsy. And then he moved to a seat right up front and put his head back and closed his eyes. And he just sat there for like the next 45 minutes with his eyes closed, absorbed into the music. And I was just like, oh man, Jazz Kisa, just the best.
I know, but I think for me, when we were standing outside, again, that one of the beauty of those buildings is that you hear everything, right? So we're standing there and then suddenly you hear this noise and it's like a fairy tale where the footsteps get closer and closer as they come up, and we get more excited. We're like, could this be the owner? And then, of course, as you said, she arrives. And I think for me, I would definitely take exception to the drab view, but I think for me, the beauty of the place actually was that it is so. Like it could just as easily be a house. It could or like an apartment, or it could just as easily be an office. And when you go in, as you said, like they have all these seats lined up and it's facing the back window, which I'll come back to in a minute, but on either sides of the walls there's also windows. So okay, you're not looking out at like what's the Fawlty Towers one? Wildebeest on the savannah or whatever. But you're looking at like, Osaka, you look at these grey sort of, apartment buildings and, high rise buildings, but you have this beautiful light on either side. And then down right at the end, she has the speaker system and these kind of slingback chairs that you can sit on, really comfortable. Each of them have a little table and they're all, of course, facing the speakers. So there's no confusion in your head when you come in. You're like, the point of this place is the music. This is to come and sit and listen. And actually, as we sat there and you massaged your shoulder, I don't know if you remember, you had a bad shoulder that day, but maybe because of the swinging bag, but in those days, but also like there was a few older guys came in, right? And there was kind of like, it was very much, and we've seen this before, somewhere like that, it opens, and then you get this really quite quick influx of like older guys who come in for their morning coffee or their afternoon coffee or whatever. And they sit for, 45 minutes, an hour, whatever, have their coffee and they go. And it was just, I think like we were just blown away because it's so new and so clean. And it's so much the antithesis of like places like, Pithecanthropus and these sort of ones that we talk about, Downbeat, whatever, have years and years of cigarette smoke and dust and grime and all these things, and yet it was no less magical just for the experience. Just to sit there, a cracking sound system in this little kind of prefab building at the top of the building and just enjoy the music was incredible. And of course, the curry just added to the experience for me. The pizza toast, I'm just looking for a photo. In fact, I've got your pizza toast here. I'll just send you a wee picture. It came sort of wrapped in tinfoil, which It's a bit confusing to me, but
I mean, obviously you've never used a toaster oven before, but okay.
A toaster oven, of course. Yeah,
I've got a great picture of you
Don't want cheese dripping
modeling
down
your John Coltrane T-shirt, actually, which I just sent you. For some reason,
those shoes.
Posing like, posing. It's really, I mean, obviously, I think our listeners would be aware, but I mean, Dear Lord is named after the John Coltrane tune. And she has an absolutely gorgeous Meishi business card. It's very spare. It just says Jazz Kissa in Japanese, Dear Lord in big letters in English since 2011 with a kind of a gray silhouetted John Coltrane playing the saxophone. It's one of my favorite business cards, Meishi, that we've ever picked up. And so, and then, when we left, good.
Yeah, I was going to say, I maybe preempted you, but I think it's not just the business card, right? Because I still use it. Although the black ink has died, so I've only got the blue, red, and green left. But she gave us that incredible Dear Lord pen, which of course famously is one of your favorites, with the four different ink colors. Right?
Yes. I don't even use that. That's like that's with all of my jazz memorabilia on the shelf because I'm not gonna let anybody use that. Yes, I forgot that. They're great. The 4-colored pen, incredible. She was so nice, and when we started telling her about all the places that we'd visited, and also like a lot of the regular places that I go, like up here in Kanto, and of course she knows a lot of them as well. So it was really great, and she was just like, oh, if you ever want to contact me, I'm on Twitter. Of course, looked up on Twitter. Didn't look like she'd posted in like years, but she does have a simple website, and basically takes all inquiries by phone, her cell phone number. Like we've got Dear Lord actually does live gigs too. It's how can they have live gigs in these small places? It's just amazing. And I wouldn't want to be the guy dragging your acoustic bass up those 4 flights of steps, but she does do regular live gigs. And, you can imagine it would be unbelievable because, like you said, those windows on each side, like there's actually no building next to it. So you get that big view. I mean, they could just pump the music as loud as they want. Not going to disturb anyone. So it's just a great location for if you really want to get a freak jazz group in there too. But, everything about the place was just to me so unique, so perfect. She was a wonderful owner and host. And it also had one of those, another, I think, Hall of Fame quirky moment, if we ever do our TJJ most quirky bits. Do you remember what happened near the end of our visit, Philip? You must remember.
Was it your little accident?
It was not an accident. I didn't have an accident. No, it was the gas inspector who came in to go through to the balcony.
Yeah.
And
only messing. Yeah. Right in the middle of it all. Just excuse me, comes in with his gear on, has to go past through the speakers, pull up the blind, climbing out onto the balcony, onto the rooftop to check the gas meter.
And I got the feeling,
all these old boys watching him like
with the music. She didn't even turn off the music, and I got the feeling that he might not have known that it was he's just doing his rounds. He's like, okay, go check out this building and go to the top. You know what I mean? And like he comes in and it's why are these gigantic speakers and these old men listening to extremely loud music? What is this? He did have that look on his face of confusion, and I just watching that whole thing go on was just great. I was just so happy. So I think we'll talk about this later, but I'm hoping that if on our next trip if we do get down to Kansai, I definitely want to make a priority to try and stop by again. Happy 15th anniversary as well. Dear Lord, not the kind of kissa that you think might have that long staying power, just because of the location, the small size. She's only open from 1 to 7 p.m., 6 hours. It's not that long. She's not going to be making a lot of money.
And she's only open 4 days a week as well. I just look at one of the multiple signs there. It says that Sunday, Monday, and Wednesday she's closed. So, obviously loves her weekend, but yeah, like you say, who knows, right? But she seemed pretty genki. I don't know if you remember, I bought again, in the long-standing tradition of not gathering luggage as I move around the country, bought a pile of records because she had these gorgeous original pressings of some albums. I've sent you a photo of one there, but I bought about 3 or 4. There's an Ornette Coleman in there as well, and a couple of others, all with the Obi, all original covers, really nice. And it was I think she said it was a customer who basically was selling his collection. They were all like 900 yen or 1,000.
Oh, it was nothing. So. It was a bargain, and because I remember later in the day, you you kind of grumbling about, oh, I shouldn't have bought those records. I got to carry them all around. It's like, dude, are you serious, bro? Like, come on. You do this every trip, man. It just so happened that it happened to be the second place of the day, so you had to carry them around. But it was like, as soon as I saw the box there, I was just like, okay, it's just the only question is how many you're going to buy. But, clearly you're going to get at least one.
Yeah, I don't know why. This is constant sort of illusion that I'm not going to do it. But when you see that sort of stuff for £4.50 or whatever it is in UK money at the minute, you think, how could you not, right? So anyway, okay, well, nice, strong choice. Didn't see it coming, actually. So lovely to hear, and nice to reminisce about it, and makes me think, actually, if we're down in Osaka town, we should definitely go back, or I'll definitely try and get back, I think, and check it out this year. So with tickets booked, etc., rubs hands in anticipation. So hopefully we can get back to Dear Lord, or we can pop in at least and say hello. So moving on then, my number 8 is from a recent trip, which almost makes me feel like the focus on recent trips, it makes me feel like all the trips that came before weren't really worth it. But obviously that's not the case. And as we said in the first couple of episodes, it's an almost impossible task. The question I hate more than anything is like, what's the favourite one you've been to? Because it's so difficult to choose. And also, I mean, it's an impossible task, really. But anyway, so as I said before, I kind of went with the gut. And I think, it was a combination between experiences, obviously, and then, just sheer kind of like the awe of the whole impression of a place. And for me, this place, although we've been to really large places, like this one, I think for me just took it, like it was just unbelievable. And it was, of course, the absolutely staggering Aberu in Asahikawa in Hokkaido, which I went to recently, and I chose it for a number of reasons. I mean, first and foremost, there'd been a lot of chatter on Instagram and so on, and I know a good friend of the project, Bose, Mitch, who goes by Bose 1978, a very, very, very well-seasoned music cafe traveller all across Japan. He had just been, I think, maybe a couple of weeks before and had missed out going again. And so he was sort of posting about how he never managed to get there when it was actually open. And I think you'd called as well, and we'd sort of had a bit of chat with the owner. But for whatever reason, it was like, is it going to really be open? And it's one of those things where you're in Sapporo, you've seen a few amazing places. I've been to Freelance and on. You're thinking, okay, this is like a gamble, because not only do I have to get back to Sapporo, then I also have to take, a train. I think it was a good, probably an hour and a half up. And again, as we've said many times, the further afield you get from the big cities, the less frequent the trains are. So you're always kind of thinking, right, I've got to get up here. I need to have enough time to obviously go and see the place. And then I've got to get back and manage to get a train, so I'm not stuck up here all night or whatever, And so when I got to Aberu, we've covered in a previous episode my eventful taxi driver with the fear of a toupee slipping over his eyes so that he wouldn't be able to see the road. But
jazz went on this car.
Yeah, jazz did on this car. So yeah, I mean, it was just, I think, like the sheer size of this place, like you cannot imagine how big it is compared to some of the literal sort of cupboards that we've been. I mean, you're talking about Dear Lord being small. We've been in places even that are smaller than that, or certainly feel smaller because, you're going down a staircase, you're sort of trying not to knock things over, you're bending down, you don't want to hit your head on certain things. And then you go to Aberu and it is just this, it feels like a kind of it's like a jazz kisa, kind of like superstore, in the sense that, there's all these different little nooks. You can go to sit at the bar. You can also then sit at these tables. You can go over and sit were the kind of stage areas with just a wall of speakers and a whole lot of instruments dotted about. Then you can go upstairs and sit around this balcony, and even up there's kind of other little rooms where you can sit. And downstairs there's also a little section that's screened off with a rocking chair where you can sit on this rocking chair with a nice blanket and sit in front of this gas heater.
It's amazing.
And it's just like one of these places. And not only that, of course, when I got there, it was completely empty. Like there was no one in it. And it was like pristine, like, every surface, and you'll see it in the photos, but, every surface was kind of gleaming and reflecting, and it was just so clean and so tidy and so well ordered. And, again, you just feel so vindicated for what at times as you're doing, it seems like just a mad pursuit. You're like, I cannot believe, like, I've spent this money to take a train for 90 minutes to get to somewhere that, may not even be open. And as you approach Abiru, you're kind of greeted with this really kind of like hip, I don't know how old it is, but it looks, it gives you that kind of 60s, 70s sort of like bohemian vibe, this beautiful Abiru. There's this picture of a cat on the side with like the word jazz, and the J of the jazz is a chili pepper. And then it has this funky kind of like font, the way Abiru is written. And it's just... And it's just a staggering place. And the reason it's so large is, and I got a little bit lost in the story, but basically it had been across the road and then they moved over. And I think the owner's father had moved over, and basically they'd taken over this bigger building, and what they did was kind of knocked through the second floor of a building. So what you have is this kind of almost like barn-like building. You've got this beautiful wooden roof. Now, I'd imagine, I think she said, it's absolutely freezing in the winter.
Oh, I mean, it would be, I mean, for people who don't know, Asahikawa, I mean, Hokkaido is the far north of Japan, and Asahikawa is probably the farthest north mid-sized city left. I think it's 300,000 people. So it's going to be brutally cold up there. And it's, Philip, it's so funny what you're saying though, because from the outside, you can kind of see from the external of Abiru that it almost looked like it used to be like a little like tiny mansion apartment or something, the way those steps were. You take those steps and you have like,
I think it was an apartment.
Yeah.
It was that kind of thing. Yeah.
And it does also give like that very much, we've often talked about, Japan is misleadingly large because it's not so large in land space, but from north to south, right? A couple thousand kilometers. And so you feel the differences in the regions and certainly the climate. And so this kind of like space that this Abiru with the wood going up to the ceiling, and I can actually smell like the wood burning stove, in the corner, the way all these northern joints seem to have them, and how great that would be to go in. And it's funny what you were describing though about the nooks and crannies. And I'm sure that you got a lot of pictures like that. It almost kind of reminded me of when I was in the UK and also in Ireland, and sometimes people would take you to like a really old pub that maybe like might not be in the center of town, and so there's just more space, and it always seemed to have like every seat seemed to almost be private, like with like a beam or a little shelf or a window. And it kind of felt like with all these nooks and crannies is a great way to describe it, I remember going to like a lot of old pubs like that in the UK and Ireland. And the pictures from Abiru, as big as the ceiling is, you're right, because there's so many little spots where you can sit and almost kind of like have it to yourself. And I've never seen that really in a jazz kisa. We were just describing like with Dear Lord, like all the seats tend to be facing the music, and there's never space to have that kind of vibe, The old Masako, the original Masako in Shimokutsuzawa had a little bit of it, and Eiga-kan has a little bit of it, but it's too small to really have that, But yeah, this Abiru looks, and I mean, you weren't joking. The wall of speakers is just, I mean, it looks like Pink Floyd's about to set up in the picture I'm looking at here.
Yeah, it's
why there's so many, bass woofers there. It's crazy.
When I was there, and unfortunately, she sort of played CDs most of the time I was there. And I chatted to her a bit and got some of the background and stuff. But I've just sent you a photo there as well. That's the sort of font I was talking about. I mean, there's Abiru is written in different ways in different places, but that font in particular on the door reminds me very much of, it gives me that vibe of some of the matchbooks we've seen, but actually Blue Note down in Nara, it's that sort of almost like horror
Yes,
kind of,
yes.
you know, it's got that sort of horror feel to it. But it's just, like you say, I'm just looking at the outside. Yeah, it has that overhang. So it definitely was an apartment. So in other words, like the second floor was basically apartments, right? Where you have that balcony, you come along and you know, there's 3 doors or whatever. And so that's all been knocked into one. So, you know, from kind of somewhere like Dear Lord, which is small and kind of intimate, this place is, I'd say, no less intimate, but in a totally different way.
And it's Philip. It's crazy though.
They also have darts. They also have darts.
Oh, I'd be so up for it. I'm a good darts player, man. I would. That's.
Are you?
Oh,
There's
yeah.
no way you're a good darts player.
I'm a really good darts
Seriously.
player. Used to play a lot all the time. Yeah, real
That
good.
surprises me. That surprises me.
Absolutely. I was a baseball player growing up, man. I'm very coordinated. What are you talking about? Jesus.
I know, but I mean, that's swinging a bat. It's not quite the same.
Well, yeah, I'm a very good. Okay, now I'm even more determined that we should go there together. Speaking of a horror movie, though, if you look around the Google Street View around the approaching streets to Abiru, I mean, you could imagine getting lost on some of these desolate streets in the winter up there. I mean, this is it's not close to downtown at all. I mean, it looks like it's surrounded by factories. Actually, I don't know what.
Yeah, it was kind of it had that sort of feel. Like it's one of those places that in other countries you'd be like, will you come back and get me?
Yes, yeah.
You know, to the taxi driver, but
right.
But I don't know. My kanji's not as good as yours, but I noticed that on the wall they have actually Aberu so, as in like besso, which is sort of means kind of apartment or house or villa like that. So maybe that's a nod to what it used to be. You know, that it was kind of a house. I don't know if that's.
That's interesting. I'm trying to. Yeah,
I'll send you here. Yeah,
I've got a Japanese.
Send you a picture here.
Blog. Okay, yeah, I've got a Japanese blog open that's talking about the building, but they're not actually saying it. They're just talking about the interior.
Yeah, just the fact they've put that on there, because I think the other 3 are read as Aberu. You know, so. But anyway, I mean, incredible place, and like you say, sort of in the middle of nowhere. When you look at the outside of the building, it's even more remarkable to me that the taxi driver had never heard of it in his life. I mean, because you're like, you know, like, I mean, it's got
it makes
an entire wall
no
that says
sense.
jazz.
It makes no
the entire
sense.
wall says jazz. You know,
And it's a gigantic structure. It's inexplicable.
It's huge. So anyway, who knows? But so that's my number 8, Aberu. I did, of course, get to the station, which was actually quite close by, a different train line, and hop back into Asaikawa, where famously I got to the station and sent you a video of Hank Mobley just playing in the station concourse really loudly with
amazing
in the actual JR station. I was like, is this Hank Mobley? So and then nip back down to Sapporo, and again, you know, just the absolute joy of sort of that feeling of achievement, that feeling of like, you know, it's been worth it, validation, vindication, whatever, just to make the effort to go. And we've done the same thing on a few occasions and been disappointed, but in actual fact, you know, on this occasion it was definitely worth the trip, as it more often than not is. And
for sure.
Yeah, what a brilliant place to go. So that's my number 8, and that takes us to the next episode, which will be number 7. We're slowly approaching the halfway mark, and I look forward to hearing what your next choice is. I must say you've thrown me with some of them so far, so it'll be interesting to see what's coming up in the next episode.
Oh well,
then,
yeah, you too. I definitely would have had Naima would have been on my list of one you picked, but yeah, the other 2 for sure, those were a surprise pick. So yeah, it's great, loving it.
All right, well look, take it easy. We'll talk next week, and until then, peace, love, and jazz.
Well, Philip, what is jazz?
Very good question.
Take it easy, man.
I'll get back to you. See ya. Bye.